Welcome to The Explainer. Let's talk about cybersecurity. Now, if you run a small business, I'm guessing that word alone can feel, well, overwhelming and expensive, right? Well, today we're going to change that. We're going to lay out a simple, affordable, and totally actionable security game plan for your business, step by step.
So let's just get right to it. The question you're probably asking yourself is my business really a target? I'm just a small shop. It's a super common thought, this idea that you can just fly under the radar. But the data tells a very, very different story.
Here's the hard truth. A whopping 43% of all cyber attacks are aimed squarely at small businesses. Think about that. That's almost half of them. So yeah, if you've got customers, if you've got data, you are absolutely on the radar.
And this next number is why this is all so critical. When an attack on a small business actually succeeds, there's a 60% chance, a better than coin flip chance, that business will have to shut its doors for good within 6 months. This isn't just some IT headache we're talking about. It's literally about survival.
Okay, so how do we fight back? Here's our game plan. We're going to cover why you're a target, introduce a simple strategic framework, lay out a phased action plan, talk about doing it on a budget that actually works, and wrap up with compliance and training. Let's dive in.
All right, first things first. We need to understand the why. Why are you a target? Let's break down the risks.
It really comes down to a simple cost-benefit analysis for them. See, you have all the good stuff they're after. Valuable customer data, maybe some financial info, and this is a big one. You could be a stepping stone into your bigger partners or clients. And here's the kicker. They're betting you have fewer defenses than some giant corporation. It makes you the perfect target, right? High reward, lower risk for them.
So where are the weak spots they look for? Well, the risks usually fall into 3 main buckets. You've got your tech, think missed software patches, a weak Wi-Fi password. Then there's your ops, your operations, no written rules, maybe people sharing accounts. But the biggest one, honestly, it's your people. Limited training means someone can accidentally click the wrong link and boom, they've just opened the door.
Okay, that's enough of the scary stuff. Let's pivot to the solution. What we need is a plan, a simple strategic framework, not just a bunch of random security tools that don't talk to each other. Think of it as a 5-step digital fitness plan.
And we're going to borrow from the pros. We'll use something called the NIST Cybersecurity Framework. Now, I know that sounds super official and complicated, but don't let the name fool you. At its core, it's just a government-backed strategy that gives us a solid backbone for our defense.
And this framework is built on 5 core functions. It's really just common sense. First, you identify. You got to know what your critical assets and risks are. Then you protect them by putting safeguards in place. Next, you detect, which is all about finding problems as they happen. If something does happen, you need to be able to respond and take action. And finally, you recover, getting everything back up and running. It's a cycle, right? You're constantly doing these 5 things to stay digitally healthy.
Okay, theory's great, but how do we actually do this? The secret sauce here is that you don't have to boil the ocean all at once. We're going to turn this into a phased action plan, a 12-month journey to get you secure.
Yeah, we'll break it down into 3 manageable phases over the year. Phase 1 is all about the foundations. Phase 2 is about hardening those defenses and focusing on your people. And Phase 3 is where you really mature the whole program. This makes it so much less overwhelming.
So in the first couple of months, we're laying the groundwork. This is the must-have stuff. We're talking about deploying a modern firewall. That's your front door guard. Installing endpoint protection on every computer. Think of it as supercharged antivirus. Locking down your Wi-Fi with a guest network so visitors aren't on your main system. And of course, email filtering to catch junk and automated backups. Backups are your ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card.
All right, next up, months 3 to 6. This is Phase 2, where we start hardening everything and really focus on our people. The absolute biggest game changer here is enabling multi-factor authentication, or MFA. When you have to enter a code from your phone? Just doing that one thing stops the vast majority of attacks. This is also when we start awareness training, like phishing simulations, and begin creating some written policies for things like passwords.
And then in the back half of the year, Phase 3, we mature the program. This is where we go from being reactive to proactive. We're going to set up central logging and alerting to see what's happening on the network. We'll finalize and actually test our incident response plan. And this is cool. We'll conduct an annual penetration test. That's where you hire the good guys to try and hack you, so they can find the holes before the bad guys do.
Okay, I can hear you thinking it from here. This sounds great, but
What's the bill going to look like? It's the #1 question, right? So let's talk about budget, because smart security does not have to break the bank. And here's the really good news. You do not need an enterprise-level budget. A really workable, solid security program can be run for roughly 3 to 5% of your annual revenue. You have to stop thinking of it as an expense and start thinking of it as an investment in staying in business.
And what's really cool is that you can be super smart about this. Look at this table. For every category, there's a spectrum of options. You can start with low or even no-cost tools that you probably already have. I mean, Windows Defender, which is built into Windows, is actually pretty decent these days. The tools inside Microsoft 365 are powerful. You can start there and then, as you grow, move to managed, more advanced options. You don't have to buy the fanciest thing on day one.
All right, we're in the home stretch. Let's talk about making all this work stick, because tools and tech are only part of the solution. To build a lasting culture of security, we got to focus on compliance and training.
Look, your team is your first and last line of defense. They can be your biggest vulnerability or your greatest strength. It all comes down to training. When you train them on the essentials, like how to spot a sketchy phishing email, the importance of strong passwords, MFA, all that stuff, you're not just checking a box. You are literally building a human firewall. It is absolutely non-negotiable.
And it's important to have two modes of thinking. On one hand, you've got your daily operations. This is the stuff you do all the time, protecting systems, training employees. It's your ongoing security posture. But then, you need an incident response plan. This is your break glass in case of emergency playbook. Knowing what to do in the first 5 minutes of an attack is what separates a minor headache from a major catastrophe.
So, let's bring it all together. What's the big takeaway? It's this. Start with the fundamentals. Implement everything in phases so you don't get overwhelmed. Use cloud and managed services to stretch your budget. Document your processes, and then just iterate. Keep improving. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
So that brings us to the final thought, and really the most important question of all. The whole point of this was to move you from learning to doing. So I want you to think, what is the very first step you'll take this week to protect your business? Just one thing, because that first step, that's the one that changes everything.